Good morning, folks. This is Steve Bradley coming to you from the God Loves People YouTube channel. I want to talk today about the war in heaven that comes to earth, and that is in Revelation chapter 12. Revelation 11 and 12 detail the beginning, the middle, and the end of what we call the 70th week of Daniel, the tribulation period, so to speak. Revelation chapter 11 is about the two witnesses, their ministry, their death, and their resurrection. Revelation 12 is about what happens after the two witnesses are assassinated and ascend to heaven. Now, there are two periods of 1260 days that make up this 7 years. The first involves the two witnesses, the second involves the dragon. And these two periods correspond roughly to the two halves of what we might call the 70th week of Daniel, which is detailed for us in Daniel 9. It begins with Revelation 6 or Revelation 4, depending on how you count, and ends at Revelation chapter 19. The purpose of that 70th week is to fulfill the prophetic scriptures as to the return of Christ and the setting up of his kingdom. However, Satan rules the earth. He said once when he was tempting Jesus that all these kingdoms are delivered to me, and I can do whatever I want with them. Wasn't entirely true. He had to do what God told him to do, but within that limitation he could do whatever he wanted. So the earth must be torn from Satan's control and returned to the one whose right it is to rule it. And Revelation 12 begins the final hour of Satan's fiefdom. Now, Revelation 12 is about two main personages, the woman clothed with the sun and the great red dragon. It's also about a series of events: the birth pangs of the woman, Satan's attempt to destroy the Messiah before he is born, Satan's failure, and the ascension of Jesus into heaven. Then it's about the war in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon and his angels. It's about Satan being cast out to the earth, about Satan's rage, his efforts to destroy the woman and her seed, his failure, and finally his warfare against the remnant of her seed or the rest of her offspring. Now, the woman we believe to be believing Israel. Israel because of the symbolism. She's clothed with the sun, has the moon at her feet, and she has a crown of 12 stars, corresponding, we think, to the 12 tribes of Israel. If you look at Genesis chapter 37, verses 9 through 11, you see a similar kind of symbolism. Israel also, because of the prophecy in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, which is the first mention of the Messiah, who is the woman's seed. God said to the serpent in that verse, he said, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. And that's always been true ever since the beginning of time. The Messiah's children are always at enmity with the seed of Satan. All the New Testament acknowledges that the Messiah Jesus was born of Israel according to the flesh. And I have a proof text there, just one for you. Mary is, of course, the human mother of Jesus, but she is a picture of all the believing Israelite women who hoped and prayed for the Messiah and that he would come through one of them. So now, why is this important? Well, the war in heaven, when it comes to earth, focuses on the woman and the remnant of her seed. That is, those who believe in Jesus as their Messiah. Satan's war against the woman is unsuccessful. She escapes. Now, this all occurs in the context of a number of different things: the invasion of Jerusalem, the assassination of the two witnesses, and the rise of the Antichrist, as it's represented for us in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, where the Antichrist actually sits in the Jewish temple proclaiming himself as God. And Matthew chapter 24 tells us that this is the signal for everyone to flee from Jerusalem and Judea, because this is the worst time the world will ever see. He says, don't even go down into your house to pick up your coat. Don't, if you've dropped a garment in the field and you're working in the field, don't go back to get it. Run. That's how bad it is. And Revelation 12 tells us that because the dragon is unsuccessful in destroying the woman, he persecutes the rest of her children. So now, the remnant of her seed, or the rest of her children who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ, is us. It's all Christians. Whoever of us is alive at the time. Now the next chapters, in chapters 13 through 19, usher in a period of time that Jesus tells us is the absolute worst. That if the days were not shortened, he said, nobody would be saved. His literal words in the King James Version are, no flesh would be saved. He also tells us, though, that the time will be shortened, and that those who do not give up will be saved. He that endures to the end, Jesus said, he will be saved. During this horrible time, martyrdom is reality, if you're caught. Evils come to earth in person. That's in the person of the dragon, and his efforts are all against God and his people. On the other hand, if you fast forward 1260 days, when the times look darkest, the dragon is destroyed, he's bound, the Antichrist is destroyed, the Antichrist kingdom disappears, and Jesus sets up his own kingdom. And if you want some background on that, look at Daniel chapter 2, verses 44 through 45. So the operative question is, whose side are you on? Now this becomes more and more important and difficult for us as the days of the dragon draw closer. We can already see signs of things happening, huge persecutions throughout the earth. And in the final hour of the dragon's rule, there won't be any room to sit on the fence. You'll have to decide, and the warnings about that will come hard and fast, direct from heaven. I've said it before, Jesus taught that this was the worst time. The pressure is intense, the reality unavoidable. And the final question of life is, what will you do with Jesus, who is called the Christ, the Messiah? Because what you do with Jesus will decide what he does with you. And so therefore the corollary, which is answered in your decision at the judgment, what will he do with me? Now there's a safe place for this at John chapter 5, verse 24, where it says that he who hears my word and believes him who sent me has everlasting life, and shall not come into judgment, but is passed from death into life. And listen to that verse carefully, because it's what it says is that when you believe, right then you receive your everlasting life. And there is a very real part of you that cannot be killed, destroyed, or harmed, no matter what else happens. Hope God blesses you. This is Steve Bradley, signing off from the God Loves People YouTube channel, and I hope you have a great day.